Hello, I am Professor Robert Lenz. I am a law librarian instructor at the University of Colorado Law School in Boulder, Colorado. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain to you how to read a source note for a statute found in the Colorado Revised Statutes. We'll be looking at a source note from this edition of the Colorado Revised Statutes. This is the official version of the Colorado Revised Statutes published by LexisNexis. This set of volumes is published each year in September, and it's based on the 1973 codification scheme. For our example, we'll use this code section, CRS 13-1-113. That's to say, it's Title 13, Article 1, Section 113. This code section is about seals and how those seals are affixed to documents. As you can see in our with this red box, following the code section is where the source note is located. And this is true for all source notes. They immediately follow the text of the code section. So the source note starts with the word source, and then you'll see a number of these abbreviations that follow, letters and numbers and words, starting with L1887, code 08, code 21, code 35, CRS 53, 63, etc. So how do we read those code sections, and why would we even want to do that? Well, let's address that part first. The whole point of us looking at a source note is to understand the history of a statute. What we're looking for is when the code section was initially enacted, when it was amended, and where it was published, and what versions of the Colorado Revised Statutes it appeared. That's what all this information is telling us. So how do we decipher it? What we'll want to do to answer that is to look at this document. This is the source note information page. This document is located at the beginning of each red LexisNexis CRS volume. It's in the front matters. You can see below, this is page VI and page VII and VIII. If you turn to the front of the volume, you'll find this abbreviation and the explanation. And what we're interested in is looking at the information starting here with L, where L is the symbol for session laws, and it's followed by a number, which will be the year in which the law was enacted, and then followed by page number or chapter number. Other abbreviations to look at are P for page, the paragraph symbol, the words amended, repealed, and then this is R and RE, which stands for repealed and reenacted. Okay, so knowing this little bit about those meaning of those symbols, let's take a look again at our source. Okay, so let's start with the source L1887. That would be here. And what we find is that this code section originated in the 1887 session of the Colorado General Assembly. If we pull the 1887 session law volume and turn to page 198, we will find the original language that that session of the General Assembly used to enact this language. We then find 1967, another of these abbreviations for L67, that the 1967 session of the General Assembly modified the code section again. We can find that on page 70 of that volume. It was modified again in 1975, but here we see something a little different. We see the entire section was R and RE, and we know from consulting the source note information pages in the beginning of the CRS volumes that that stands for repealed and reenacted. So turning to page 489, we'll find out exactly what the General Assembly was doing in repealing the old language and substituting new language. Likely that means that they were just renumbering it for the 1973 codification scheme. It was again modified in 1980, but this time there's something else a little different. Before the word amended, we see a paren 1 close paren. What this is referring to is that that 1980 session of the General Assembly modified or amended only section 1 of our code section, not section 2. And then finally in 2011 we see section 1 was amended yet again, and this was located at page 46 or chapter 18 of the session laws for that year. But we see something new. We see this HB 11-1018. So each piece of legislation is based on a bill, and this denotes what that bill number is. In this case, it's House Bill 11-1018, 11 for the year of the session of the General Assembly, and this is Bill number 1018. Colorado started doing this, including this information in the source note, around 2010. One other thing I want to point out to you is that we find in the source note when this legislation became effective. For this 2011 became effective on March 11th, 2011. And then for 1980, that legislation became effective March 25th, 1980, and so on and so forth. July 14th is scheduled for 1975. Okay, let's look at the other abbreviations at this point, the Code 08, the Code 21, the CRS 1963. Looking back at that table, that was the revised statutes of Colorado of 1908. So now if we take a look at that source note, we find that this language originally appeared in the 1908 version of the Colorado Revised Statutes at Chapter 396. Then it reappeared in the 1921 version at Chapter 397, then the 1935 again at 397, and then finally in the 1953 Colorado Revised Statutes at 37-1-14, which is a numbering scheme that's more familiar with us in the 1973 code. It's also important to point out that the language for this code section was not changed from the 1887 all the way through 1967. So the language as it appeared in the 1908, the 1921, the 1935, 53, and 63 codes was absolutely identical. Okay, that's it. If you'd like further information about reading source notes and about statutes in Colorado, you can check out a few additional resources. One is my book called Colorado Legal Research, and Chapter 4 covers that topic. And the Colorado General Assembly produces a nice document called Understanding Colorado Statutory Source Notes that's available at this URL. Thank you. I hope you've found this helpful. If not, please let us know. I'll help you out. Thank you.